I'm John Ochins, and welcome to Schooling Around. The theme of today's program is moving up. There's an old saying that the only thing constant is change, and there's been a lot of that in Oxford schools the past couple of weeks, to say the least. First, Dr. Jim Schwarz announced he was going to the Avondale School District to be their superintendent. Then Ken Weaver was appointed to fill Jim's position as head of curriculum and instruction. With Ken leaving a vacuum at Oxford Middle School, Dacia Beasley moved into that job. In a moment, we're going to spend some time with Ken and Dacia to talk about their promotions.
Everywhere you turn in Oxford is a new opportunity for fun. From the sandy beaches of Stony Lake and Scripter to the many different sporting events and other recreational activities held at Seymour Lake Park. For those who like long walks, you can find yourself exploring the Pollyant Trail throughout Oxford's more scenic areas. And if it's seclusion you like, look no farther than Oakwood Lake Park. So bring your family or friends out to see one of our beautiful parks today.
Ken Weaver has been principal of Oxford Middle School for 11 years. He's taught in Utah, Sturgis, and finally here. We caught up with him as he was moving from one office to another. We talked about how he got this job. How does this work? All right, now, we know that Jim Schwarz applied for a job when he found out there was going to be an opening and he was accepted. But how does that work in your situation? Did you put a bug in somebody's ear at some point and say, you know, I'd really like that job if it becomes available? Or how does that work?
Well, how did it work? The superintendent actually just, he came and asked me. We had been at a conference in, I think it was August, and I came back from that and told him, had a meeting with him and said that I was looking at other options, that I've been the middle school principal for 8 years. I think I've done a pretty good job with the middle school, and I've accomplished a lot of things in my time there. I'm very proud of all that the staff and that we've done in trying to benefit and help the students out as much as possible here, and just had that conversation. Then shortly after that, you know, Jim had applied for the Avondale job. He basically said, well, what about this opportunity within our district? Because I told him that I would start considering probably some prospects outside of Oxford. And so when Jim, who's an excellent candidate, and it was not a big surprise that Avondale chose him, he's accomplished a tremendous amount for the position. Dr. Skilling at that point came to me and said, you know, I think we need somebody that's been here helping move our initiatives along and understands them, and would you like to take his position? And at that point, I love Oxford and have had nothing but just an awesome experience. Matter of fact, I just recently moved into the area and was extremely happy.
As if you didn't have enough to do.
Yes. Yeah, that is added quite a bit to us. The new move into the house, and then on top of me changing positions and getting everything situated, it has been a lot.
What's the biggest change in your duties with the new job from what you were doing before?
The biggest change is that I won't have the daily contact with the students. That is going to be something that's going to take some time to get used to. You know, one thing working here, I had 1,130 some students here, and if I was feeling like down on something or frustrated about something, all I had to do was go find some students, interact with them, watch them interact, and everything changed, and I remembered why I'd gotten into this profession. Now I'm going to be located over at Central Office. I'm going to be a level removed basically from the students, so that part's not going to be, I mean, I'm always going to be working for the benefit of the students and trying to do the best that I can and ensure that they have the best education, but I'm just not going to have that daily supervision and responsibility and stuff. Plus now I'm going to be over, the other big change is going to be that I'm over all of the programs. Over all of education K-12. Before I was just over the middle school section of it basically, and responsible for the implementing that section of the curriculum, or
You're really the head curriculum guy right now, aren't you?
yes, I will be overseeing all of it, pre-K to 12th grade and beyond, in a sense. We have so many different educational opportunities. It is an immense job. I always appreciated Dr. Schwartz and all that he did, and just think the world of him. But I never fully understood everything until I've tried to start walking in his shoes. And since doing that, it's been a bit overwhelming.
It seems to me it might be kind of like a funnel, you know, where on the one hand, you've got to look at what the laws are and changes in the laws each year, make sure your district is conforming. And on the other hand, look at some of the visions of your superintendent and try and mesh all that stuff together.
Yeah, it really is, because you got to make sure, first of all and foremost, that you're always in compliance, that you're following regulations, state laws, grant regulations, and everything else, which is, one of the roles that I have, as well as blending that with not only the vision of the superintendent, but of the school board, the staff, the community, and blending all of those things together to come up with a direction for the education and implement it. It's a big task.
Now, you're not going to be able to direct traffic after school anymore.
That's one aspect I won't miss.
I told Dacia you were going to pass the official umbrella over to her.
Yes.
And she said, no thanks, it won't match my purse.
Yeah, when I took over this job, actually I did get an official umbrella. It's funny you mentioned that, and I will be turning that over to her, as well as my keys here tonight, actually.
After spending as many years as Ken has in his old job, you're bound to form some attachments. More on that from Ken Weaver. What you going to miss the most about here?
That's easily the kids and staff,
Yeah.
and parents. I mean, all of those. Just that interaction. The kids were always like I said. If I was ever having a bad day or bad moment or anything like that, there was nothing better than going down at lunch and with 400 kids, just standing around watching them interact, having a good time, and not having any cares. Working through issues with them, listening to them, listening to my staff, working with them on a consistent daily basis. They're just absolutely wonderful. Talking with parents and hearing what they wanted to see done in the school, what issues there were, if they had problems in that, working through them with them. Those situations with them, and Oxford's just a great place. It's a wonderful place, and so I was just thrilled that this opportunity came up for me, and that I was able to stay in Oxford and work for and in behalf of the people I just absolutely love.
I know you got to take one thing at a time, but do you think you'd want to be a superintendent someplace someday?
That's a tough question. There is so many pressures in the politics and the budgets and all of that stuff. I don't know. Right now, I'm just happy being, formerly the middle school principal and now the curriculum director.
It's a long way from Hale, Michigan to Oxford.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I don't think if you were to go back and ask any of my teachers, in fact, I know that if you were to go back and ask them, that they would have ever seen me ending up in this position. I don't know that anybody would have seen that, but it just shows that an education of a child is a long journey, and it's one that never ends. And along the way, I had a lot of growing and developing to do myself, so I can relate.
At what point did it hit you across the head, I want to be a teacher?
It was after a few years of college. I had gone back and helped with some coaching and stuff like that, and I realized just in summer jobs that I had, nothing in particular, but then I realized that I really, really just liked working with kids, that I just loved it, and that I had a knack of being able to not only work with people, but also to teach them something, to impart something on them. Because first and foremost, now I've spent more years out of the classroom now in my career than I did in it. But at the same time, I'm always a teacher, and never will leave that, no matter what role I'm in. I just sometimes teach different audiences than I first started out with. Obviously, when I first started, I was a high school teacher, teaching either English or history. Now, Not only am I still teaching kids, but I'm teaching them different things: discipline, how to act, how to behave, how to control their emotions, how to learn. And I'm also working in teaching teachers and building principals now as well too, and trying to help them in any way, shape, or form I can.
Were there other teachers in your family?
No. I am. There are some distant relatives in that, but for the most part, no. Especially in my family, both my parents did not. They attended a little college, but didn't ever graduate or anything like that. But they were always excellent role models. I couldn't ask for two better people.
Now, I know you've been in Oxford for, 11 years or something like that?
Since 2003, so.
Yeah, and where did you teach before that?
I taught some out I was an assistant principal in Sturgis, Michigan.
Oh, you were?
And then for 2 years prior to coming to Oxford as the high school principal. And then prior to that, I did a lot of my teaching in Utah. I had moved out there for a job, thought I would only be out there for a year, fell in love with it, ended up being out there for almost 10 years and got married, and then eventually moved back to Michigan.
Wasn't it a tough change going from, maybe you've already partially answered this, from teacher to administrator?
Yeah, it was. It was a decision that I didn't take lightly, and that it was a very difficult decision for me. Out of all the positions I've held, and I've not even officially held the chief academic officer role yet. I mean, I officially start tomorrow, although I'll be attending the board meeting tonight in that role as Mr. Schwartz is moving, or Dr. Schwartz is moving on to Avondale. That was a huge decision. It was to leave the classroom and become an administrator, and partly I wanted to do that because I felt I could help others, and in that way help more kids than just that were going through my classroom. But it was a huge decision, and it's still, quite honestly, even though, like I said, I only held this job, I haven't really held it, still my favorite job was being a teacher and a coach.
Yeah. What were you coaching?
I coached football, and then I coached girls basketball.
With responsibility comes challenge. More when we return.
A high school football game night is a unique experience, uniting a community in so many ways and showcasing other school activities. This grand setting helps kids learn life skills and build lifetime relationships in the safest environment ever, where teacher coaches, equipment, rules, and safety protocols minimize risks. It's a true celebration of participation. Support your local school and its young people who enjoy this privilege.
It's a big move from being in charge of a school to being in charge of part of a district. We talked about the challenge. What's the biggest challenge that you see in this new job?
Just getting my arms around everything. Dr. Schwartz had he had done such a wonderful job, and we have developed so many programs and initiatives under Dr. Skilling and Dr. Schwartz. And I really didn't fully appreciate or understand completely the immensity of the role until I started to working a little more closely with Dr. Schwartz and trying to understand what things were he's involved in and picked and handling. And that has been the biggest part of it, is the biggest challenge, is realizing I've always been a person that likes to maybe not know the most in a room, but be up there. And now I'm in a position where, in many cases, I'm the one that knows the least because I'm new to the position, but I will do my best to change that.
Well, even part of the mix for you is you're going to be doing some grant writing probably. I mean, and this will be the first year for the Crossroads thing. Be really interesting how everything shakes out this year. Kind of exciting in a way, really.
I think it's very exciting, and that's one of the reasons why I took the position was, when I said I'd been here for 8 years, I was ready for a change. And that's one of the things, and one of the reasons why I took the position was that I was ready for that change and looking at things, and learning how to write grants. Matter of fact, next week I'll be at a conference that's strictly about writing grants and making sure that I'm following the federal compliance laws and everything else. Because those are extremely important to our district, and I've got to make sure that they get that everything goes well with them.
I was reading something. There's the Lucy Calkins Literacy Program. You're going to be. What is that?
It's a writing program that we're implementing in the elementaries K through 5. It's research based. It's a solid program that's supported by research that shows in And I've already just started sitting down with Mrs. Magdaleno, who's our literacy coach. She's stationed over at Clear Lake, a wonderful lady, wonderful teacher, who's going to be helping us implement this along with the elementary principals. And this program basically it's a workshop model of teaching writing, the writing process, and trying to develop writers over time through the different grade levels. And it's a unique approach. And I'm really excited to work with the elementary teachers as we look at implementing this program.
So what do you think the people in Hale, Michigan are saying about Ken Weaver?
Well, I think they're pretty proud, and I would think that they would think that he's come a long way from where we knew him. And thank goodness.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. We'll be following you and knocking on your door from time to time to see what's happening. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day.
Thank you, and always a pleasure.
Next, our new middle school principal. Back in a moment. Daisha Beasley has been in education for over 20 years, in Oxford for 7. She spent 4 years as assistant principal of the middle school before moving to the high school for 3. She was assistant principal there too. Now it's back to the middle school, but as principal. We talked about her role change.
I think the biggest role change coming into this job is being a support person to being the lead person. And what I mean by that is as an assistant principal, I've always supported and been in a supporting role of my principal. And so moving to the role of principal, now it's hopefully I have good support people under me.
It's all on you and
it's all right. The buck stops here. But having said that, now I think although I am I'll have people that support me, my biggest role then is supporting every single person underneath me, whether they work in the classroom, in the office, in the kitchen, and of course all of our students. I am thoroughly going to be supporting every single one of them.
Now, you were one of, 3 or 4 assistant principals at the high school. What was your role over there? I gather each one of these folks had some specialties they had to take
Right, right. So at the high school, I was working mostly with the counseling department, the special education department, and the career and technical education department. So along with all the other assistant principal duties that are out there, those were my largest responsibilities. The other thing that I worked with 9th and 10th grade students mostly, and so working with anything to do with 9th and 10th graders transitioning to the building, working on their scheduling, and anything that came up that had to do with a 9th or 10th grader.
Now, okay, so we know that Jim Schwartz knew about an opening, applied for it, and was finally chosen. But how does that work for somebody like you? I mean, at some point a while ago, did you put a bug in somebody's ear that, hey, if a principal's job comes up, you might be interested? Or
Well, although I don't like to admit it, I've been in education for a pretty long time. This is my 24th year, I believe, and I've been an administrator now for in middle school, for 19 years. So it is I would think, aspiration of most assistant principals to eventually get their own building and become a principal. I was not, traditional in the sense that I wasn't in a very big hurry to have a principalship because I so enjoyed my work as an assistant principal. And that means that I was working with students every day, rolling up my sleeves and helping families. And that's a job that I really enjoyed. Being a principal, it takes you a little bit away from the students. And so I wasn't ever one to put that as a career goal early on in my life. But as you go through your career, there are things and opportunities that come up that you kind of say, I'm ready for this now. This is a time in my life that I'm ready for a new challenge. And going to the middle school is just a great opportunity. And of course, staying in Oxford is a blessing.
Now, you're from Bay City.
I
Or
am.
Somewhere around there.
I
Where were you
am,
born?
Bay City. I was born in Bay City.
In Bay City.
I graduated from John Glenn High School in Bay City and came back to Bay City after I graduated from Grand Valley, and I got my first teaching job in Bay City. I was a middle school French teacher for 6 years.
Parlez-vous français?
Oui, je parle français.
What were you doing when it kind of went through your mind, I want to be a teacher?
Oh, well, that started very early in my life. My parents were both teachers. They both taught high school. And so I knew early on from playing school and helping put copies together and being on the pool deck with my dad, he was a coach, and helping with parades and floats with my mom. I knew that I wanted to do something in education. And middle school teaching was not my first career goal. I thought I'd be a high school teacher, but my first job was a middle school educator, and I fell in love with it. I didn't dream that I would fall in love with middle schoolers, but I did. And so I spent a career in a lifetime, really, in middle school.
Now, somebody told me last night at the swimming meet at the high school that the swimming coach was thinking of retiring in a couple years. Or something. I don't suppose you could do double duty.
I would love to do double duty. Coaching's in my blood, and that is something I've really missed, being in administration.
I noticed in your qualifications, and I suppose really in this day and age with what this school district is going through, maybe everybody's got their foot in this, but you've had some training in the International Baccalaureate. Particularly, I believe you're level 1 in the MYP program.
I think I'm
Maybe you're level 2 or 3
yes,
now.
I think so.
Maybe this was old.
That might be old.
But anyway, this is a big year around here for MYP, isn't it?
Well, it is. Last year we were authorized, thanks to the hard work of our teachers and staff. But now the work begins. We thought that the hard work is behind us, but it's not. Every day is a new challenge as we work with the IB organization to work within their policies and create classes and grading systems and things that match their philosophies. So this is a big year. There's a lot going on.
I believe this is the first year that the MYPers will have their personal project.
That's right. We are just starting the figuring out how to implement personal projects. So our MYP coordinator, Molly Darnell, is working hard with our teachers to create great experiences for our students.
We also asked Dacia about what goes on after school and touched on her personal life.
There's a lot of other after-school stuff going on here, too. I was surprised. The pre-engineering thing was in the headlines last year, so we know a little bit about that. But my gosh, they've got a robotics team too, don't they?
They do. We have, and that's new since I left the middle school originally. I was here as an assistant principal for 4 years and have been gone for 3 now. But when I was here before, we didn't have a robotics team at the middle school. And since I've been gone, the robotics has just exploded through our district, elementary to middle school, and of course our high school program. And that's due to a lot of fantastic educators, but of course some parent volunteers who have been instrumental in helping our students get those experiences.
Any other things that perhaps we wouldn't know about that are going on in the way of after-school types of things?
Well, my first day is tomorrow, so I'm going to find out tomorrow. One of the things that's new since I've been gone and been at the high school is that we have 2 athletic teams for each grade level, for each sport. So, for example, we have 2 basketball teams, in girls and boys, and football teams. We have double duty, so we've increased the opportunities for students after school. I've noticed that some of our teachers are doing some after-school clubs that weren't here before. In fact, on my way over here, I saw Mr. Peruski and a group of students riding bikes, and I don't remember that from before. So there are a lot of neat activities. I think we have even a duct tape club at the middle school that certainly was not here 3 years ago when I left. So I'm looking forward to figuring out all that OMS is offering our students.
Is it, maybe you kind of answered this earlier, but I like to ask administrators this question. Is it tough to make the transition from a teacher to an administrator? Do you kind of miss the student contact and that sort of thing?
So much so. Teachers have such an impact every single day, every single hour, every interaction that they have with students, from 7:30 a.m. to 3 o'clock, and most of the time after that as well. And in administration, there are a lot of meetings, there's a lot of planning. You don't have that one-on-one contact for a good solid 8 hours a day, and that's hard. But that's why it's important to get into classrooms and to be at lunch activities and to be after school at sporting events so that you have that positive interaction with students and their families too.
And your husband does this too, doesn't he? He's in the Farmington?
He's in the Farmington district. He's an administrator, and he's actually at middle school as well, East Middle School. So the Titans and the Wildcats never meet face to face, but we have some battles at home.
I was going to ask, you guys are both going to be so crazy busy, especially with the new job and the new school year and everything. Did you just kind of say, well, honey, I'll see you next spring?
We'll see you next spring. That's exactly what we do. But that's kind of been the basis of our whole relationship, has been student-centered, whether it been our own children or our students from school. So we're good. We're good.
Finally, her new challenge.
Other than the big move from the high school to here and bringing all your stuff over and all that sort of thing, with all the changes that have taken place recently and the new stuff that's going on and this and that, what do you see as your biggest challenge as principal here?
Oh, my biggest challenge. I'm not sure I know what my biggest challenge is yet, quite honestly. I think I'm going to figure that out the first couple weeks on the job. I know that this is a fantastic school. I know that the students are fabulous. Oxford students are amazing. I know that we have supportive families and great teachers and a great support staff. I'm not sure yet what is behind the weeks to come, but I look forward to working together with my staff and with the families on behalf of students. And I don't think that any challenge is too big for our group. I have a lot of confidence and faith in our community.
Well, last year I remember Ken Weaver standing outside with it was kind of a rainy day and the buses were leaving at the end of the day with his umbrella directing traffic. Now, is he going to hand the official umbrella over?
I have my own umbrella.
Oh, you do?
Yes, and my own rain boots. And I do. I have my own rain boots and my own umbrella. And I haven't used it a lot at the high school. Our high schoolers, if it's raining, they get right out there and get on the buses. But I'll be out there, and I look forward to greeting our students in the morning and saying goodbye to them and reminding them to do their homework at the end of the day.
But we wish you all the luck in the world.
I appreciate that.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We'll be checking back.
Thank you.
We wish Ken and Dacia every success in their new roles. That's Schooling Around for this week. Be sure to check out My Life Monday through Friday at 10 and 5, Saturday at 10. Minutes by Minute with Elgin and Dave is next. Thanks to Dan Zweiss and Kyle Snage for helping us out. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.
Hi, this is Connie again from Connie's Kitchen, coming to you from Treetop Lodge, the place where magic happens and unicorns roam freely. Of course, you have to come to the lodge to understand about the unicorn thing, but they're everywhere. We'll be doing a wide variety of cooking shows here on Oxford Community Television, and I personally would like to thank the crew for coming out and giving me this opportunity to share my passion and what I love to do with you from Connie's Kitchen. So please join us on OCTV, join us at the lodge, and look for us all over the town. And if you see unicorns, they probably came from here. See you soon.